In this edition of Southern Newsweek, Dunedin residents are presented with new options for curbside collection. Removal of parking spaces sparks ire for some Dunedin businesses. And National Mudslide Day draws a crowd in Ashburton. Kia ora, I'm Melissa Barton. Dunedin residents are being encouraged to have their say on curbside collection. Mayor Hawkins says the current black plastic bags will have to go for safety reasons, being replaced by a second wheelie bin.
The Dunedin City Council is considering two options for additional wheelie bins to deal with household waste. Both options would see the retention of the existing blue bin for glass and the yellow lidded wheelie bin for cardboard and plastics. The option 1 adds a new wheelie bin for household rubbish to replace council rubbish bags. And the second option sees an additional wheelie bin for food and garden waste. Dunedin Mayor Hawkins says the black plastic bags have to be replaced with a bin for people's safety.
The status quo isn't an option. It's becoming increasingly difficult from a health and safety point of view to get, quite rightly, to get contractors to hire staff to pick up plastic and deal with the risk of glass or needles or whatever that might be dangerous and unsanitary in a black plastic bin. You do away with that risk obviously by using a reusable wheelie bin system.
A number of households already use the bins of third-party rubbish contractors such as Enviro Waste instead of rubbish bags, and Hawkins says their work could be incorporated into the new system.
I would be surprised if existing operators in the waste collection business didn't put forward proposals to be a part of that municipal system, whatever we decide to do.
The council has posted out a pamphlet on the options, and Hawkins is encouraging anyone with interest to have their say.
And to put it in perspective, I think the last time council had this conversation when they introduced the curbside recycling system, we got more than 10,000 public submissions on it, and the increased interest in waste minimisation and environmental issues in general in the decade or so since would suggest that we're not going to get a drop-off in interest at this point. So I would encourage anybody who has an interest to let us know what they're thinking as we head through the design process.
Submissions on curbside rubbish collection close in mid-April. In Dunedin, the South Today.
This year's Warbirds over Wanaka, the Southern Hemisphere's largest air show, has been cancelled. The announcement came in the wake of the New Zealand government's response to the COVID-19 pandemic.
The Warbirds over Wanaka Easter Air Show has been cancelled. It was expected to attract 55,000 people over 3 days, with several thousand being visitors from overseas. The show's general manager Ed Taylor says the need for overseas visitors to self-isolate for 2 weeks was the last straw.
Because we have so many thousands of people that come from overseas, for them to have to self-isolate for 2 weeks just wasn't tenable. We had display pilots visiting United States and Australian Air Force personnel.
He says the air show's board of trustees had investigated other options rather than a complete cancellation.
Could we postpone it to later in the year? Could we do a cut-down version just for locals? But at the end of the day, we made the decision. We said no, in this climate, and no one knows what's going to happen in the next few weeks, so we wanted to cancel, make it clean, try and limit the financial impact on the air show, and come back in 2022 stronger than ever.
The show is normally held every 2 years, and the last one was thought to have brought in over $22 million to the regional economy. Taylor says local businesses will definitely feel the impact.
The immediate impact is in Wanaka because all those motels and hotels and houses that were booked out are not anymore.
All tickets to the air show are set to be refunded in full, but organisers have asked ticket holders to wait a few days while they confirm specifics about how people will be able to access refunds. In Wanaka, the South Today.
The Dunedin City Council is spending $3 million improving road safety outside 15 schools around Dunedin. But the removal of parking spaces around one central city school has upset local businesses.
Mike McMillan, who runs TM Automotive in Dunedin's Howe Street, is unhappy with long-term car parks being reduced to just 4 on his part of the street.
There was no consultation with anybody in the street in regards to this action being taken, and now everybody in the street has to try and find more parking, which is obviously at a premium.
The council says the reduction in parking is to make the roads safer for pupils at the nearby George Street Normal School, but Jim Strang of neighbouring piano specialists disagrees.
This is one short block with traffic lights at each end. Nobody speeds up and down here. You know, they spend most of their time in this block sitting at the lights. So what good is it going to do to put a sign up there with school zone written on it when, you know, the school's not even in this street?
McMillan says in the 24 years he's been on this street, he's seen the council cut car parks from 15 down to just 4, plus a few 5-minute parks. He says the issue is symptomatic of council disruption to parking across the city.
These roading changes that they're doing in Dunedin, the Octagon and other areas, which are directly affecting people's businesses and people's lives, and there seems to be no accountability from anyone in regards to it. It's just done, and then, oh sorry, it's already done, we can't really do much about it.
The council says feedback from schools and residents in other areas of the city showed similar measures have slowed down vehicle speeds and improved safety for people. In Dunedin, the South Today.
National Mudslide Day drew young and old to Maniaroto Scout Park in Ashburton recently. The day was designed to promote scouting to the wider community and attracted scores of people eager to try the variety of slides constructed by the Scouts.
Mud was the theme of the day out at the Maniaroto Scout Park in Ashburton on Sunday. Hordes of youngsters took part in what Kia leader Nicci Glanville says has become a nationwide event for scouting groups.
Today is National Mudslide Day for all the scouts in the country, and we have organised a huge big pioneering project as part of our mudslides. Utilising
water, detergent and a bit of actual mud, the activities included ground slides, a throwing target and a mega slide built by the Allenton Scouting Group, featuring a platform several metres high with a slide about 10 metres long. Glanville says the day was held in part to promote scouting to the wider public.
It's an open community event that everybody can have a go at and have some fun, and it's involving the Kias, the Cubs, the Scouts, the Venturers and the Rovers.
And adults were also encouraged to slide around in the wet.
It's not just for kids, it's for adults too, and we are just having a blast.
It's the second year the Scouts have opened the event to the public, and the second time it's been held at the Scout Park, previously having been run in Methven. In Ashburton, the South Today.
Still to come up after the break on this edition of Southern Newsweek. One cancelled Dunedin Fringe act is still likely to go ahead and record a rehearsal. And university students begin using their new Music and Performing Arts Centre. Welcome back. The Dunedin Fringe Festival was cancelled following the arrival of the COVID-19 outbreak to Dunedin. But one act plans to keep rehearsing to record their show for posterity.
The Dunedin String Orchestra, or STRORC for short, were busy rehearsing for the Fringe last weekend, but now their intended performance has been cancelled, along with all the other acts scheduled for the festival. However, they're now thinking of continuing their rehearsals and at least make a recording of the works, some of which were created specifically for the concert.
Dean Hullabun had a few pieces that he had never really heard, so this is his chance to hear them played. Tom Jensen wrote a piece specifically for the concert, brand new piece. And then we close with pieces by me, which are a mixture of a few pieces we've played before in other concerts, but never all together, and see how they go together.
Conductor and composer Tom Jensen says the orchestra always welcomes new members, irrespective of their skill level, with the current ensemble including some who normally play other instruments, as well as some virtuosos from the Dunedin Symphony Orchestra.
I think it's really important to bring people together and bring players who want to play. Some of them are jazz people, some of them are classical people, some of them are improvisers, some of them are like quite new to playing, some of them are veterans. So it's really cool to have them all in one place and play some music and different takes on their different perspectives.
While Jensen's composed for all sorts of instruments, he says strings can bring something unique to the music.
You have the plucked pizzicato, you can have bowing, and there's lots of different options for bowing and articulations. And they're really beautiful. I try to write really beautiful music. Maybe there's some contrast with dissonance and beauty, but mostly it's very beautiful, and so strings are really perfect for that. With good players, it just shines and shimmers.
Starrett says while the orchestra is an ever-changing pool of players, some local identities have been regular figures in the group.
Part of it is going to be dedicated to Phil Davison, because he was our double bass player last year and has just recently passed away.
The Fringe Festival says it's looking at ways to host a digital version of the festival to allow the public to enjoy the performances online. In Dunedin, the South Today.
New Zealand fire and emergency crews burnt down a house in Blanket Bay Road, Sawyers Bay last Sunday as part of a fire practice. The home was given to the fire service by a member of the Port Chalmers Volunteer Fire Brigade who wanted to clear their land.
The gift of a house to burn so fire crews can learn in a safe environment.
To get something like this is one out of the bag, you know, and when we do get a house like this, we try to make the most of it, just by generally taking the volunteers through in a controlled manner.
Dunedin Central Fire Station Officer Ant O'Neill says it's a rare opportunity to receive a house to train paid and volunteer crew members with. Firefighters took turns walking through the former rental property, setting fires as they went.
Setting alight each room, and in a controlled way we'll put the fire out, relight it, put it out, and then teach them the characteristics of fire, really.
The owners moved out in 1975 and it had been a rental property ever since. About 30 volunteers and career staff from Ravensbourne, Port Chalmers and Waitati stations were involved in the fire training, which began early Sunday morning.
Okay, well we started at 7 o'clock this morning, and that was setting up the fire trucks you can see behind me, setting up the hoses, setting up the big bladder that you can see there to supplement the water supply. At its peak we probably had close to 25 to 30 firefighters here.
Ant O'Neill says fire crews expect the house would burn until about 6 p.m. last night, but says they were keeping an eye on it overnight just to be safe. In Dunedin, the South Today.
28 years ago, Peter Grimsey started his first full-time job as gardener and caretaker for Otago Girls High School. He is now their longest-serving support staffer, and both staff and students see him as a school icon.
So normally when I come in the morning, there's sort of some various indoor stuff, like getting dishes and washing done. Sometimes the things aren't on my job list, but sort of like sometimes we share the jobs around a wee bit. But I do quite a bit of gardening afterwards, and anything that needs sorting, put the bins out.
In 1992, Peter Grimsey started out as a caretaker and gardener at Dunedin's Otago Girls High School. 28 years later, he's still in the same job, and school principal Linda Miller says he's become an icon of the school.
He's just a generally all-round helpful guy. Whatever needs done, Pete jumps to it and does the work. He is the most loyal, most energetic, he's hard to describe. He's just awesome.
The school has a roll of about 800 girls who Grimsey gets along with very well.
There's sort of happy moments, but they're actually really good. They don't cause too much trouble here, I find.
And Miller agrees the pupils are supportive of Grimsey's role at their school.
A number of years ago, when we were about to get a new caretaker, I had a delegation of girls come and talk to me concerned that Pete may not be continuing in his job, so I was able to reassure them he absolutely was.
10 years into his career at Otago Girls, Grimsey was able to buy his own house, paying it off with a job he clearly loves.
I actually quite like shredding paper, which is a wee job I'm starting to do this year, because it gives you the spur of a moment thing. And the other one's like when they get rid of old stuff and I get to chuck it out and I go smashing it up and things like that.
In his 28 years at Otago Girls, Grimsey's only taken sick leave twice, once for the extraction of wisdom teeth and another time when a mower ran over his foot. In Dunedin, the South Today.
University of Otago students have begun using the new Music and Performing Arts Centre in Dunedin. The centre includes a 2-storey recording studio and rehearsal spaces, but not everything's quite finished.
A green light signals it's all go in the recording room of the new Music and Performing Arts Centre at the University of Otago. Head of the School of Performing Arts, Professor Anthony Ritchie, says it's provoked some dramatic reactions.
Jaws have been dropping to the floor really when they see it's such a beautiful building, and the studio itself is magnificent compared to the facilities we've had in the past. It's such an upgrade that we're very lucky.
The multi-million-dollar facility has been many years in the planning and building. Prof Ritchie says many aspects of the facility have been open since the start of the academic year, but admits there are some as yet unfinished symphonies.
But there's still finishing touches going on to especially to the studio, so its use is sort of snowballing as more and more stuff is finished.
Advanced drum student Jade Zaya enjoys the acoustics in the studio under the watchful eye of his tutor Carl Woodward, which Prof Ritchie says is music to the ears.
So our Bachelor of Performing Arts students have been rehearsing in their rooms ever since the start of the semester for 4 weeks. And as you heard, the drummers got the percussion room up and running, so that's all good. But the studio itself and the mixing desk is still being sort of finalised as we go.
Many of the recording studio facilities, including a new mixing desk, will allow for multi-channel audio recording and broadcasting. The studio is predominantly for students' education, but will also serve as a community resource. In Dunedin, the South Today.
Still to come up after the break on this edition of Southern Newsweek. After 3 years living in a garage, a Dunedin couple move into their new home, and intricate flowers made from icing and decorated cakes are displayed in Alexandra. Welcome back. One of the most unusual eclectic collections in central Otago is attracting another round of attention, 27 years after it was created. Hand-stitched kneelers with images reflecting the area's history are now on display at the Presbyterian Church in Terrace.
78 hand-stitched kneelers that have been part of the fabric of the Terrace Presbyterian Church for 27 years have now been mounted on the backs of pews by American businessman Mike Mountz, so that visitors can get a better look at them.
Well, it just started with an idea. These beautiful kneelers were sitting on the pews, and they were piled up, and everybody that came in would have to lift one up at a time to look at them. And it was very awkward, and they'd get tired of it. So we come up with the idea to mount them on the back of the pews, so now anybody that comes can get a good look at them. But they're beautiful, beautiful pieces, handmade by the people of the church.
The kneelers, for those wanting to kneel while saying a prayer, were created back in 1993 by members of the Terrace branch of Women's Division of Federated Farmers. They were a community project for New Zealand women's suffrage celebrations that year.
They're just all so stunning. The unique thing is not only is the picture stunning, but their names are embroidered along the sides. And I just find it amazing that somebody would go to that amount of work.
The church is now owned by the Terrace Community Church Trust, which was set up with funding from Mr. Mountz and community funding organisations.
I'm not a religious person, but God gave me the message to buy the church a year ago. And I thought first when he said it was to buy it and to own it. But it was clarified to me, no, it was to pay for it. So what happened is I paid for the church, bought the church, paid for it, and gave it to the community of Terrace, that they can have it forever and a day. And it's open up, one of the things that I wanted it to be is open up to any religion, not just strictly a Christian-based religion, but any religion that is open for prayer.
Mountz says he takes a spiritual view of the money he's contributed to making the church available to the community.
Throughout my life, I've asked God for a lot of things, to help a loved one get well, to help me get out of a bad situation financially or whatever. I've asked. And on this given day, God asked me to help out with the church, to buy the church. So I don't even view it as my money. I view it as God's money. I was just the wire that just went from my bank account to theirs. I honestly don't even view it as my money.
The picturesque church on the hillside above Terrace is still used for church services and other functions. In Terrace, the South today.
A sprawling beach house at Ocean View south of Dunedin has been a long time coming, but it was worth the wait. The owners spent 3 years living in the garage after they demolished the original house to make way for the new one.
Carol Williamson and Judge de la Roche have fallen in love with their new beachfront home in the Dunedin suburb of Ocean View since they moved in last year. However, they're not new to the area, as they originally moved into a 1970s A-frame home on the same site back in 2004. After buying the neighbouring house, they demolished both homes and moved into a garage while their new house was under construction.
We'd spent 3 years in the garage, living there, which isn't too bad. The garage has a bedroom and an ensuite and 3-car garaging, besides wasn't really doing it too hard.
A double-height living area separates the master suite at one end of the home from the 3 guest bedrooms and bathroom at the opposite end. And each set of sliding glass doors weighs more than 2/3 of a tonne. The Mason and Wales designed house sits across the 2 adjoining beachfront sections, being a sizable 350 square metres.
Wow, moving in here, like we couldn't find each other in this house. Like we're sort of walking around going, where are you?
The home was built by Williamson's son, who was also building his own smaller version of a beach house just down the road. And they're very grateful for his hard work.
There wouldn't be a day go by that we haven't said how much we love it. It's warm. We love the fact that Zach has done everything beyond, he checks it every time he walks in.
The house's spectacular views over the sea allow for the occasional sighting of dolphins and whales swimming by. In Dunedin, the South today.
Intricate flowers made from icing along with perfectly formed decorated cakes took centre stage in Alexandra last weekend. The appetising artworks were showcased at Alexandra's Community House.
The Central Otago Cake Decorating Club displayed their finest work at the Alexandra Community House yesterday. Club President Judith Crossland said the ultimate aim was to share ideas.
Every year it's something different and we just have a go. So when we meet, we try and have a go at doing something.
The event is designed to increase the club's profile and raise money as it prepares to host the New Zealand Cake Decorators Guild Conference in Alexandra next year.
But it's all about having a go. I think this year's is Freedom Camping, so that could be really quite exciting.
A steady stream of people viewed the cakes on display, including youngsters who also got a chance to try their hand at decorating cupcakes.
So we're just starting to build up and see where we can go from here. And it's just letting people know what we've got, what we can do, and what our passion is.
The club also provides members with problem-solving techniques and an opportunity to share ideas. In Alexandra, the South today.
That's all for this edition of Southern News Week. For the latest news from the Southern region, head online to www.odt.co.nz and follow Channel 39 on Facebook and YouTube. And remember to keep up to date with governmental procedures around COVID-19. Ka kite anō.
supporting local content so you can see more of New Zealand on air.